Imagine living your entire life without ever touching a toothbrush. No toothpaste, no mouthwash, no dental floss, not even a dentist. Now imagine smiling with teeth that could last for decades. It sounds impossible, yet this was the reality for many ancient humans. For thousands of years, people survived without modern dental care, but archaeologists have discovered something surprising inside ancient skeletons. Many of them had teeth that were heavily worn down, but showed far fewer cavities than the average person today. How could people who never brushed their teeth sometimes have healthier teeth than people who brush twice a day? At first glance, it makes no sense. Today, we have electric toothbrushes, fluoride toothpaste, professional cleanings, and endless advice about oral hygiene. Yet, tooth decay remains one of the most common health problems in the world. Meanwhile, many ancient skulls tell a completely different story. Scientists have spent decades studying thousands of ancient human remains from caves, burial sites, and prehistoric settlements. Again and again, they noticed the same pattern. The teeth were often rough. They were often flat from years of chewing hard foods. Sometimes they were chipped or cracked. But surprisingly, cavities were much less common in many ancient populations than they are today. That discovery forced researchers to ask an unexpected question. Was brushing your teeth really the biggest reason for healthy teeth? Or was something else protecting ancient humans all along? The answer is far more surprising than most people imagine. It has almost nothing to do with toothbrushes. Instead, it begins with something every human does every single day: eating. The food entering your mouth may be far more important than the toothbrush in your hand. Every bite feeds not only your body, but also billions of bacteria living inside your mouth. Some of those bacteria help maintain a healthy balance. Others produce acids that slowly destroy tooth enamel. Modern life has completely changed what those bacteria eat. And when their food changed, our teeth changed as well. Ancient humans lived in a world without candy, soda, cookies, breakfast cereal, or refined sugar. Their mouths were exposed to a completely different environment from the one we experience today. This difference changed almost everything. But before we can understand why their teeth often stayed healthier, we first need to understand how they actually lived. Because the story of ancient teeth is really the story of ancient life itself. And once you see that connection, you will never look at your toothbrush the same way again. To understand why ancient humans often had healthier teeth, we first have to forget almost everything about modern life. Imagine waking up thousands of years ago. There were no supermarkets filled with colorful packages, no refrigerators storing food for weeks, no bakeries selling soft bread every morning, no chocolate bars waiting at the checkout counter. Even clean drinking water was never guaranteed. Every meal had to be earned. Ancient humans did not eat because it was lunchtime. They ate because they had successfully hunted an animal, gathered edible plants, or found seasonal fruits before someone or something else did. Some days they ate well. Other days they ate almost nothing. Their bodies evolved to survive uncertainty, not abundance. Food was precious. Wasting calories was dangerous. Every bite had value. Unlike today, where millions of people snack throughout the day, ancient humans often went many hours without eating. This gave the bacteria inside their mouths far fewer opportunities to feed on leftover sugars. Their teeth spent much more time resting instead of constantly being attacked by acid. Another major difference was the texture of their food. Very little was soft. Meat required long chewing. Roots were tough and fibrous. Wild nuts had hard shells. Seeds were coarse. Many plants contained tiny particles of natural grit and dust collected from the soil. Even after cooking became common, food remained much harder than the processed meals we eat today. Every meal forced the jaws to work. Chewing was not a quick task. It could take several times longer than eating a modern meal. This constant chewing had an unexpected effect. It stimulated the production of saliva. Saliva is one of the mouth's greatest natural defenses. It helps wash away food particles. It neutralizes harmful acids. It delivers minerals that can repair the earliest stages of enamel damage. The more ancient humans chewed, the more saliva they naturally produced. Their own bodies were helping protect their teeth. Their powerful jaws also developed differently. Children began chewing hard foods from an early age. As their bones grew stronger, their jaws often became wider than those of many modern people. This created more space for teeth to grow naturally. Crowded teeth, which are common today, may have been less frequent in many prehistoric populations. But life was far from perfect. Their teeth faced challenges that most modern people never experience. Tiny grains of sand often became mixed with food during preparation. Stone grinding tools sometimes released microscopic rock particles into flour. Over years, these particles slowly wore down tooth enamel. Many ancient adults had teeth that looked almost flat after decades of constant chewing. To a modern dentist, that amount of wear would seem alarming. Yet despite this heavy wear, cavities often remained surprisingly uncommon in many hunter-gatherer groups. This puzzled scientists for years. How could teeth that looked so damaged still avoid the decay that affects billions of people today? The answer was not hidden inside the teeth themselves. It was hidden inside the food. Because the greatest difference between ancient mouths and modern mouths was never the toothbrush, it was the diet. And that is where our story becomes even more surprising. If you could travel back in time and watch an ancient human eat for an entire week, one thing would become obvious almost immediately. Their meals looked nothing like ours. There were no breakfast cereals, no sandwiches, no pizza, no candy, no soft drinks. Not even the fruits they ate looked like the fruits we buy today. Over thousands of years, humans have selectively bred fruits and vegetables to become larger, sweeter, and softer. Wild apples were much smaller and far more sour. Wild berries were seasonal and far less sugary. Many edible plants were bitter because they still contained their natural defensive chemicals. Ancient humans could not simply satisfy a sweet craving whenever they wanted. Most natural sugars appeared only during certain seasons, and even then, they existed in much smaller amounts than they do today. For hunter-gatherers, a typical meal depended entirely on where they lived. People living near rivers often caught fish. Those living in forests gathered nuts, mushrooms, berries, and edible roots. Groups living on open grasslands relied heavily on hunted animals. Some communities combined all of these food sources depending on the season. There was no universal ancient diet. But there was one thing many of these diets had in common: very little refined sugar. A single difference changed the entire environment inside the mouth. Modern cavity-causing bacteria thrive on simple sugars. Every time we eat sweets, drink sugary beverages, or snack on processed carbohydrates, those bacteria produce acids that slowly dissolve tooth enamel. The attack begins within minutes. If this happens repeatedly throughout the day, the enamel has very little time to recover. Ancient humans simply did not expose their mouths to this constant cycle. Their food was often rich in protein, fiber, and natural fats. These foods required long chewing, but did not provide the rapid sugar supply that harmful bacteria love. Even wild honey, one of nature's sweetest foods, was extremely difficult to obtain. Finding a hive often meant climbing dangerous trees, facing angry bees, and risking serious injury. Honey was likely an occasional reward rather than an everyday food. Modern supermarkets have completely changed that balance. Today, sugar is everywhere. It hides inside bread, breakfast cereals, sauces, flavored yogurt, energy drinks. Even foods that do not taste particularly sweet may contain surprising amounts of added sugar. Ancient humans never faced this problem. Their mouths existed in an environment where harmful bacteria have less fuel available. But diet affected more than just bacteria. The act of chewing itself also played an important role. Imagine chewing tough meat for several minutes, then eating fibrous roots that resist every bite, then cracking open hard nuts with your teeth or simple stone tools. This constant mechanical action naturally helped remove some food debris from tooth surfaces. It was not brushing in the modern sense, but it reduced the sticky food buildup that often remains on modern teeth after eating soft processed meals. Scientists have also discovered another interesting clue. When agriculture spread across different parts of the world around 10,000 years ago, something unexpected happened. The number of cavities began to increase. Why? Because farming introduced larger amounts of grains and starchy foods into the human diet. Later, as civilizations developed and refined sugar became widely available, tooth decay increased even more dramatically. Ancient hunter-gatherers and early farming communities did not always have the same dental health. In many regions, archaeologists found that hunter-gatherers often had fewer cavities than the farmers who came after them. This does not mean ancient life was healthier in every way. Far from it. People still suffered injuries, infections, and countless other hardships. But when it came to tooth decay, their natural diet often gave them an advantage that modern humans have largely lost. And this discovery would eventually lead scientists to investigate something even more fascinating. If ancient humans rarely brushed their teeth, and their diet explains only part of the story, what else was protecting their mouths? If ancient humans had fewer cavities, then something must have changed. And that change was not the invention of the toothbrush. It was the invention of a completely different way of eating. For nearly all of human history, sugar was incredibly rare. A person might taste something sweet only a handful of times throughout the year. Today, many people consume sugar before they even leave the house. A glass of fruit juice, sweetened coffee, breakfast cereal, toast with jam, flavored yogurt. The average mouth is exposed to sugar again and again, often without people realizing it. But sugar itself is not what destroys your teeth. The real damage comes from what happens after you eat it. Inside every healthy mouth lives a complex community of bacteria. Scientists call it the oral microbiome. Hundreds of different bacterial species live together on the teeth, gums, tongue, and cheeks. Many of them are harmless. Some are even beneficial. They help keep the mouth balanced and make it harder for dangerous microbes to take over. The problem begins when certain bacteria receive an endless supply of sugar. One of the most studied species is Streptococcus mutans. This bacterium loves simple sugars. When it consumes them, it produces acid as a waste product. That acid slowly removes minerals from the enamel covering your teeth. One sugary snack is usually not enough to create a cavity. Your saliva immediately starts repairing the damage. It contains calcium and phosphate that help rebuild weakened enamel. But modern eating habits create a different problem. Many people snack all day. A cookie in the morning, a soft drink at lunch, candy during the afternoon, dessert after dinner. Every sugary bite restarts the acid attack. Instead of giving the mouth time to recover, the teeth remain under repeated chemical stress. The enamel never gets enough time to fully repair itself before the next attack begins. Ancient humans lived under completely different conditions. They did not have vending machines. They did not carry sugary drinks. They did not constantly snack while working or traveling. Meals were separated by long periods without food. During those breaks, saliva had time to neutralize acids and naturally clean the mouth. Modern processed foods create another hidden problem. Many are soft and sticky. They cling to the grooves of the teeth long after eating. Caramel, soft bread, crackers, potato chips, sweet pastries, even foods that do not seem especially sugary often break down into simple sugars while being chewed. These tiny particles remain trapped between teeth and feed harmful bacteria for hours. Compare that with the tough foods eaten by many hunter-gatherers: fibrous plants, dry meat, crunchy nuts, hard seeds. These foods were far less likely to coat the teeth with sticky residue. Scientists often describe modern diets as creating a perfect environment for tooth decay, not because people stopped brushing, but because harmful bacteria rarely run out of food. The Industrial Revolution made this situation even worse. As sugar became cheaper, people began eating more of it than any previous generation in human history. By the 19th century, dentists in many countries were seeing cavities far more often than before. The trend continued throughout the 20th century as processed foods became part of everyday life. Today, billions of people experience tooth decay at some point in their lives. According to global health organizations, untreated cavities remain one of the most common diseases on Earth. This is not because human teeth suddenly became weaker. It is because the environment surrounding those teeth changed dramatically. Ancient humans were not born with magical teeth. Their mouths simply operated under conditions that modern mouths almost never experience. But this raises another fascinating question. If their diet protected them so well, why do archaeologists still find ancient skulls or damaged or missing teeth? The answer reveals that life without cavities was far from painless. By now, it might sound as if ancient humans had perfect teeth. They did not. That is one of the biggest myths about prehistoric life. Ancient people absolutely suffered from dental problems. They could lose teeth. They could develop painful infections. Some even died from untreated dental abscesses long before modern medicine existed. The difference was not that cavities never happened. The difference was how often they happened. And to whom? When archaeologists examine ancient skeletons, they do not find the same pattern everywhere. Instead, they find a story that changes across time. The oldest hunter-gatherer populations often show remarkably low rates of tooth decay. Some ancient communities had only a small percentage of individuals with cavities. Then, something changed. Around 12,000 years ago, humans in several parts of the world began settling down instead of constantly moving. This period became known as the agricultural revolution. Instead of hunting wild animals and gathering seasonal plants, people started growing crops: wheat, barley, rice, corn, millet. These new foods helped support larger populations. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Civilizations began to rise. But this incredible achievement came with an unexpected cost. The human diet became much richer in starch. Unlike meat or wild plants, cooked grains break down into simple sugars inside the mouth. That gave cavity-causing bacteria far more fuel than they had enjoyed before. Archaeologists noticed something remarkable. Skeletons from early farming communities often showed significantly more cavities than skeletons from nearby hunter-gatherer groups. The evidence appeared again and again across different continents, different cultures, different climates. The same pattern kept emerging. Agriculture transformed human civilization. It also transformed human mouths. Scientists studying ancient dental remains found another interesting clue. The location of cavities also began to change. Many appeared in areas where sticky cooked foods became trapped between teeth. Unlike tough wild foods that naturally clean parts of the mouth during chewing, softer agricultural foods often remained attached to the teeth much longer. The bacteria had more time to feed, more time to produce acid, more time to damage enamel. As thousands of years passed, another major change arrived. Sugar, not natural fruit, not occasional honey. Refined sugar. When sugar production expanded throughout the world, cavities became dramatically more common. For the first time in history, enormous numbers of people had access to concentrated sweetness every single day. The bacteria inside the mouth had never experienced anything like it. Neither had human teeth. Today, archaeologists can often estimate aspects of an ancient person's lifestyle simply by studying their teeth. A mouth with heavy wear but very few cavities may suggest a traditional hunter-gatherer lifestyle. A mouth with increasing tooth decay may indicate a farming population. Large numbers of cavities can even help identify later populations whose diets included more processed carbohydrates or refined sugar. In many ways, teeth became tiny historical records. They preserve evidence long after clothes, wooden tools, and food have completely disappeared. Every worn surface, every cavity, every crack, every missing tooth tells part of the story of how humans lived. But tooth decay was only one piece of that story. Ancient teeth reveal something else that surprises many researchers. Some individuals showed signs of remarkable dental skill long before the invention of modern dentistry. People were already trying to treat damaged teeth thousands of years ago, and the methods they used were far more advanced than most people imagine. When archaeologists discover an ancient skeleton, they do not just see bones, they see evidence. Every tooth is like a tiny time capsule, preserving clues that have survived for thousands of years. Unlike skin, muscles, or clothing, teeth are incredibly durable. Enamel is the hardest substance in the human body. Long after almost everything else has disappeared, teeth often remain almost untouched. That is why they have become one of the most valuable sources of information about ancient human life. Researchers do not simply count cavities. They examine every detail: the shape of the jaw, the direction of wear, tiny scratches on the enamel, cracks, missing teeth, signs of infection, even macroscopic particles trapped inside hardened dental plaque. That plaque, known as dental calculus, can survive for thousands of years. For scientists, it is like opening a biological archive. Inside it, researchers have discovered tiny grains of pollen, fragments of plant fibers, traces of cooked foods, smoke particles from ancient fires, and even DNA from bacteria that once lived inside the mouth. These discoveries allow scientists to reconstruct ancient diets with remarkable accuracy. Sometimes they can even identify the types of plants people regularly ate. In other cases, they can detect whether someone consumed dairy products, seafood, or particular grains. The mouth quietly recorded details of everyday life long after the people themselves were gone. One of the biggest surprises came from comparing different populations. Hunter-gatherers often showed extremely heavy tooth wear. Their teeth could become almost flat after decades of chewing tough foods mixed with tiny particles of grit. To modern eyes, these teeth might look badly damaged. Yet many of them remained functional throughout most of a person's life. Instead of breaking because of decay, they slowly wore down through constant use. This is very different from the patterns seen today. Modern teeth often keep their original shape much longer, but they are more likely to develop cavities caused by bacterial acids. Scientists also noticed that the jawbones of many ancient hunter-gatherers were generally larger and more robust than those of many modern populations. These wider jaws often allowed teeth to erupt with more space. Today, crowded teeth are extremely common. Many children need braces because there simply is not enough room for every tooth. Researchers believe that softer modern diets may play a role in this change. Eating tough foods during childhood places greater mechanical stress on the growing jaw. That stimulation may encourage stronger jaw development. Modern children, who often eat softer processed foods, may not receive the same level of natural stimulation. This idea is still being actively studied, but it offers one possible explanation for why jaw size has gradually changed in many populations. Archaeologists have uncovered another fascinating clue. Some ancient skulls show clear evidence that people attempted dental treatment long before modern dentistry existed. In several archaeological sites, researchers found teeth with carefully drilled holes. The drilling was surprisingly precise. Microscopic analysis suggests that simple stone tools were used to remove decayed material. Some of these procedures were performed more than 7,000 years ago. Even more astonishing, certain drilled teeth show signs of healing. That means the individuals survived the treatment and continued living afterward. Other discoveries reveal early attempts to fill damaged teeth using natural materials such as beeswax. These were not sophisticated dental clinics. They were practical solutions created by people determined to reduce pain using the knowledge available to them. These discoveries completely changed the way scientists think about prehistoric medicine. Ancient humans were not simply enduring pain. They were experimenting, observing, learning, adapting. Just as they solved problems involving hunting, fire, and shelter, they also searched for ways to care for damaged teeth. But despite these remarkable discoveries, one question still remains. If they did not own toothbrushes or toothpaste, how did they actually clean their mouths every day? The answer is simpler than most people imagine, yet surprisingly effective. Ancient humans never owned toothbrushes, but that does not mean they completely ignored their teeth. In fact, evidence suggests that many prehistoric people cleaned their mouths in simple but surprisingly effective ways. The methods varied from one region to another. They depended on the local environment, available plants, and cultural traditions. One of the oldest methods was chewing sticks. Long before modern toothbrushes existed, people discovered that certain small branches became soft and brush-like after being chewed. The fibers at the end of the stick spread apart, creating natural bristles. These plant fibers could gently rub against the teeth and help remove food particles. Some trees also contain natural chemicals with antibacterial properties. Scientists have found evidence that this practice appeared independently in different parts of the world. Even today, millions of people still use natural chewing sticks, such as miswak, as part of their daily oral hygiene. Modern research has shown that some of these plants contain compounds that may help reduce bacterial growth in the mouth. Ancient humans probably did not understand the chemistry. They simply noticed that certain plants work better than others. Observation was one of their greatest tools. Another important factor was constant chewing. Unlike modern processed foods that are soft and easy to swallow, ancient diets required long periods of chewing. Every bite stimulated saliva production. Saliva is often called the mouth's natural cleaning system. It washes away loose food particles. It helps neutralize acids produced by bacteria. It also delivers minerals that continuously repair tiny areas of enamel damaged during everyday eating. Without realizing it, ancient humans were constantly activating one of the body's most effective defense systems. Some prehistoric groups may also have used water to rinse their mouths after eating. While direct archaeological evidence for routine rinsing is limited, using clean water to remove food debris is a simple behavior that requires no technology and would have been easily available wherever fresh water existed. Scientists are careful not to assume that every ancient community followed the same habits. Human cultures have always been diverse. What worked in one environment may not have existed in another. That is why archaeologists avoid making broad claims about all ancient humans. Instead, they study each population separately. There is also evidence that some people used natural fibers or strips of plant material to clean between their teeth. Although these methods were far less sophisticated than modern dental floss, they demonstrate an important point. Ancient people paid attention to discomfort inside the mouth. When food became trapped or irritation appeared, they often searched for practical ways to remove it. Perhaps the greatest cleaning process, however, happened naturally. The food itself, tough roots, fibrous vegetables, dry meat, hard seeds, crunchy nuts. These foods required powerful chewing and created friction across the tooth surfaces. While they certainly did not replace brushing, they often left far less sticky residue than modern processed foods. Compare that with foods like caramel, soft bread, sweet pastries, or potato chips. These modern foods easily stick to teeth, especially in tiny grooves and between molars. Ancient diets generally produced far less of that persistent coating. This does not mean prehistoric mouths were perfectly clean. Dental plaque still formed. Food still became trapped. Bad breath almost certainly existed. People still experienced gum disease and infections. Ancient life was never free from oral health problems. The difference was that the balance inside the mouth was completely different from what we see today. Their oral bacteria lived in an environment with far less refined sugar. Their teeth experienced heavy mechanical wear instead of constant chemical attack. Their saliva worked continuously during long periods of chewing. Their natural habits often supported the mouth in ways that modern lifestyles rarely do. Ironically, modern humans clean their teeth better than any generation in history. Yet many of us also consume diets that create the perfect conditions for tooth decay. Ancient humans had the opposite situation. They had almost no modern dental care. But many also lived in an environment that naturally protected their teeth in ways we are only beginning to fully understand. And perhaps the most surprising lesson of all is not that ancient humans had stronger teeth. It is that the greatest protection for those teeth often came long before anything ever touched them. It began with the food they chose to eat. Ancient humans may have had fewer cavities, but that did not mean they had perfect dental health. In fact, many of them paid a very high price for surviving in such a harsh world. Imagine using your teeth not only to eat, but also to hold animal skins while cutting them, to soften leather, to grip ropes made from plant fibers, to crack hard nuts, sometimes even to help shape wooden tools. For many ancient people, teeth were more than part of the body. They were tools. And like any tool that is used every single day, they gradually wore down. Archaeologists have discovered countless ancient skulls with teeth that were almost completely flat. Years of chewing tough meat, hard roots, seeds, and gritty foods slowly removed layer after layer of enamel. To a modern dentist, these teeth might appear severely damaged. Yet many of those individuals continued eating normally for years. Their mouths adapted to the gradual wear. However, there was a limit. Once enamel disappeared, the softer dentin underneath became exposed. Dentin wears away much faster than enamel. As this happened, teeth became shorter and more sensitive. In some cases, the wear reached the inner pulp, where nerves and blood vessels are located. That could cause intense pain. And unlike today, there were no dentists to repair the damage. Broken teeth were another common problem. Hitting into small stones hidden in food, cracking hard bones to reach nutritious marrow, or using teeth as tools sometimes caused fractures. A cracked tooth could become infected. Without antibiotics, even a small infection had the potential to become life-threatening. Archaeologists have found skulls showing large dental abscesses. These are pockets of infection that form around the roots of damaged teeth. Some abscesses became so severe that they ate away portions of the jawbone itself. In a modern clinic, such infections are usually treated quickly. Thousands of years ago, they could last for months, or even years. Scientists have also found evidence that some ancient peoples survived after losing several teeth. The empty sockets had healed completely, showing that they continued living long after the teeth were gone. This tells us something remarkable. Ancient communities often cared for one another. A person missing several teeth would have struggled to chew tough foods alone, yet many survived for years afterward. That suggests family members or the wider group may have shared softer foods or helped prepare meals. Survival was rarely an individual achievement. It was often a collective effort. Despite the pain, ancient humans were incredibly resilient. Some skeletons show individuals who lived with worn teeth, broken jaws, healed fractures, and chronic illnesses for many years. These people adapted in ways that continue to impress modern researchers. Their lives remind us that strong teeth were never a guarantee of comfort. They were simply one part of surviving an unforgiving world. Ironically, modern people often experience the opposite situation. Our teeth usually experience far less physical wear. We have softer foods, dental fillings, crowns, pain relief, and professional care. Yet tooth decay remains one of the most widespread diseases on Earth. Ancient humans suffered from mechanical damage. Modern humans mostly suffer from chemical damage. Two completely different problems, each by two completely different ways of living. This comparison reveals one of the most fascinating lessons in human history. Healthy teeth have never depended on a single habit. They are the result of an entire lifestyle. And that raises one final question. If we understand why ancient humans often had healthier teeth, can modern humans actually learn anything from them today? After everything we have learned, it is tempting to ask a simple question. If ancient humans often had fewer cavities, should we start living like they did? The answer is more complicated than many people expect. Modern life has changed in ways that cannot simply be reversed. Very few people could survive by hunting wild animals, gathering edible plants, or spending hours chewing tough roots every day. Our world is completely different, but science suggests that some of the principles behind ancient oral health still apply. The biggest lesson is not about throwing away your toothbrush. It is about understanding what actually causes tooth decay. For decades, researchers have agreed on one important fact. Brushing your teeth is essential, but brushing alone cannot completely protect them. If your diet constantly feeds acid-producing bacteria, even excellent brushing may not fully prevent cavities. That is why dentists emphasize both oral hygiene and nutrition. The two work together. One cannot completely replace the other. Ancient humans accidentally benefited from a lifestyle that gave harmful bacteria fewer opportunities to grow. Modern humans can achieve similar benefits without giving up civilization. One simple example is reducing how often teeth are exposed to sugar. Many people think only the amount of sugar matters, but frequency matters just as much. Eating one dessert during a meal is generally less damaging than eating small sugary snacks every hour throughout the day. Every new exposure restarts the acid attack. Giving your mouth time to recover is one of its greatest natural defenses. Saliva needs time to work. Scientists also recommend eating more foods that require chewing. Fresh vegetables, whole fruits, nuts, foods that stimulate saliva production instead of dissolving instantly inside the mouth. This does not recreate an ancient diet, but it supports some of the same natural protective mechanisms. Another lesson comes from processed foods. Many modern products are engineered to be soft, convenient, and highly enjoyable. Unfortunately, those same qualities often allow food to remain attached to teeth much longer. Sticky snacks can feed harmful bacteria long after a meal has ended. Ancient foods were rarely designed for comfort. They demanded effort. Ironically, that effort may have provided unexpected benefits for oral health. Researchers are also studying the oral microbiome more closely than ever before. Instead of trying to eliminate every bacterium, scientists now understand that maintaining a healthy balance may be more important. The goal is not to create a sterile mouth. That would be impossible. The goal is to support beneficial bacteria while limiting the conditions that allow harmful species to dominate. In many ways, ancient humans achieved this balance naturally through their environment. Modern humans must achieve it through informed choices. There is another lesson that often surprises people. Ancient humans moved constantly. Their overall health affected every part of their bodies, including their mouths. Today we know that sleep, stress, smoking, certain diseases, and overall nutrition all influence oral health. Healthy teeth are connected to the health of the entire body. They have never existed in isolation. Still, we should avoid romanticizing prehistoric life. Ancient humans experienced pain that modern dentistry can now prevent. They lived without antibiotics, without anesthesia, without emergency treatment. A simple dental infection that is easily cured today could become fatal thousands of years ago. Modern dentistry has saved countless lives. The goal is not to return to the Stone Age. The goal is to understand why our ancestors sometimes enjoyed advantages that disappeared as civilization changed. And that brings us to one final discovery, a discovery that completely changed the way scientists think about ancient teeth. For generations, people believed that ancient humans had healthy teeth simply because they were stronger. It sounded like a reasonable explanation. Life was harder, bodies were tougher, so their teeth must have been tougher too. But decades of scientific research have revealed a very different story. Ancient humans were not born with special teeth. Their enamel was not magically stronger. Their mouths did not possess some lost biological advantage. In fact, their teeth were made from the same basic materials as ours. The real difference was the world they lived in. For nearly all of human history, the human mouth evolved in an environment with very little refined sugar, very few processed foods, and long periods between meals. Then, within only a tiny fraction of human history, everything changed. Agriculture introduced larger amounts of starch. Civilizations expanded. Food became easier to store. Trade spread new ingredients across continents. Then came refined sugar. Later, industrial food production transformed the human diet once again. From an evolutionary perspective, these changes happened almost overnight. Our mouths had evolved over hundreds of thousands of years, but our diets changed dramatically in only a few thousand years. Evolution simply has not had enough time to fully adapt. That is one reason tooth decay remains so common today. How biology still reflects a world that no longer exists. This is why archaeologists, anthropologists, and dentists continue studying ancient teeth. Every skeleton offers another clue about how humans adapted to changing environments. Every jawbone tells part of the story of civilization itself. In many ways, the history of human teeth is also the history of human survival. It records the transition from hunting to farming, from farming to cities, from natural foods to processed foods, and finally, to the modern world. The greatest lesson is not that ancient humans lived better. They did not. Many faced hunger. Many suffered injuries. Many endured infections that modern medicine can now cure easily. Life expectancy was much shorter. Daily survival required enormous physical effort. Few people today would truly want to exchange places with them. But their teeth remind us of something important. Technology solves many problems. Sometimes, however, it also creates new ones. The invention of the toothbrush is one of humanity's greatest advances in personal health. Yet the toothbrush was never designed to fight an endless stream of sugary snacks, sweet drinks, and highly processed foods. It was created to help maintain a mouth that had already changed. Modern dentistry has become incredibly advanced. Dentists can repair cavities, replace missing teeth, treat infections, straighten crowded smiles, and even rebuild entire jaws. These achievements have improved millions of lives, but prevention remains far more powerful than treatment. That lesson has not changed in thousands of years. Healthy teeth begin long before the toothbrush ever touches them. They begin with everyday choices, with what we eat, how often we eat, how we care for our bodies, and how we understand the tiny ecosystem living inside every mouth. Perhaps that is the greatest surprise of all. Ancient humans did not leave us a secret toothpaste. They did not discover a forgotten dental technique. Instead, they left us something far more valuable, a reminder that our bodies are deeply connected to the environments we create. The story of ancient teeth is not really about the past. It is about the present. Every meal you eat, every snack you choose, every habit you repeat, becomes part of the same story that began hundreds of thousands of years ago. So the next time you pick up your toothbrush, remember this. It is an extraordinary invention. It is only one small piece of much bigger picture, because the strongest protection your teeth can ever have may begin long before you start brushing.